Childhood trauma is more common than many people realize, and it comes in many different forms. For a child, trauma is not just about one painful moment. It's about experiences that shake their sense of safety and stability. These moments can shape how children see the world, how they relate to others, and even how they grow into adulthood. In this video, we'll explore the 8 main types of childhood trauma, understand their impact, and highlight why awareness and support matter. Bullying. Bullying is one of the most common yet overlooked forms of childhood trauma. It goes beyond simple teasing. Bullying is repeated, intentional harm, often targeting children who are perceived as different or vulnerable. It can be physical, like hitting or shoving. It can be verbal, such as name-calling, mocking, or spreading rumors. And today, it also happens online through social media, known as cyberbullying. For children, bullying is not just about hurt feelings. It can deeply damage their sense of safety and belonging. When a child feels constantly threatened at school, in the neighborhood, or even online, their brain stays on high alert. This stress can lead to anxiety, depression, difficulty concentrating, or even physical symptoms like headaches and stomach aches. Bullying also creates shame. Many children blame themselves or feel powerless to stop it. Over time, this can affect their self-esteem and ability to trust others. While some children bounce back with support, others may carry the scars into adulthood. Recognizing bullying as trauma reminds us that no child should face such hostility alone. A safe and supportive environment can make all the difference in their healing. Community violence. Community violence refers to exposure to acts of violence that happen in public spaces, often by people who are not directly related to the child. This can include shootings, gang violence, muggings, or even witnessing frequent fights in the neighborhood. Unlike private trauma that happens inside the home, community violence invades the child's sense of safety in the outside world. Children growing up in such environments may begin to feel unsafe simply walking to school or playing outside. The unpredictability of violence, never knowing when something could happen, keeps their bodies and minds in a constant state of stress. Some may become anxious and withdrawn, while others may develop aggression as a way of coping or defending themselves. Over time, the impact can ripple out. School performance may suffer because it's hard to focus when safety is always on the mind. Friendships and social skills may also be affected since trust becomes difficult. Community violence doesn't just harm individuals, it damages entire neighborhoods. Yet children are especially vulnerable as they don't have the power to change their environment. This is why community programs, safe spaces, and strong adult support are essential for protecting and healing young lives. Complex trauma. Complex trauma occurs when a child experiences multiple, repeated, and often invasive forms of trauma, usually at the hands of caregivers or close relationships. Unlike a single event, such as an accident, complex trauma can involve years of abuse, neglect, or exposure to domestic violence. Because it happens during critical stages of development, it can shape nearly every aspect of a child's life. Children living with complex trauma often learn to survive in unpredictable and unsafe environments. Their bodies may stay in a constant fight-or-flight mode, making it hard to regulate emotions or feel calm. They might have trouble trusting adults, forming friendships, or even understanding their own feelings. In school, they may seem distracted or defiant, when in reality they are coping with overwhelming internal stress. The long-term effects of complex trauma can include difficulty with relationships, mental health struggles, or challenges in adulthood. But it's important to remember, these children are not broken. With consistent support, safe environments, and trauma-informed care, healing is possible. Complex trauma teaches us how deeply ongoing stress can affect a child's growth, but it also shows us the power of resilience when children finally find safety and care. Sexual abuse. Sexual abuse involves any sexual activity with a child intended to satisfy an adult or older child. It can include inappropriate touching, exposure to sexual content, or coercing a child into sexual acts. Beyond the immediate violation, sexual abuse often leaves long-lasting emotional harm. Children who experience sexual abuse may feel confusion, guilt, or shame. Because the abuser is often someone they know or even trust, children may feel trapped or powerless to say no. Many carry the fear that they won't be believed if they speak out, which silences them further. The impact of sexual abuse can last well into adulthood. Survivors may struggle with trust, intimacy, and self-worth. They may develop anxiety, depression, or post-traumatic stress symptoms. Some may also turn to unhealthy coping mechanisms to manage their pain. It's important to understand that the responsibility always lies with the abuser, never the child. Healing is possible, but it requires sensitive support, safe environments, and professional care. When children are believed, protected, and reassured, they begin to regain control over their lives. Recognizing sexual abuse as a form of trauma is essential to breaking cycles of silence and fostering recovery. Early childhood trauma. Early childhood trauma refers to traumatic experiences that happen between the ages of 0 and 6. This period is critical for brain and emotional development, making young children especially vulnerable. Traumas during this stage may include abuse, neglect, witnessing violence, or even painful medical experiences. Because young children cannot fully understand or explain what is happening, trauma often shows up through behavior. A toddler may become unusually clingy, fearful, or aggressive. They might regress, returning to behaviors like bedwetting or thumb-sucking. Sleep disturbances, excessive crying, or difficulty calming down are also common signs. What makes early childhood trauma especially impactful is that it disrupts the child's foundation for trust and safety. When the people or environments meant to protect them instead cause harm, the child learns that the world may not be safe. This belief can carry into later stages of life, affecting relationships, learning, and emotional health. However, the developing brain is also remarkably resilient. With nurturing, stable caregivers and trauma-informed interventions, children can rebuild a sense of safety. The earlier this support is provided, the greater the chance that they will grow up with the ability to trust, connect, and thrive. Intimate partner violence, domestic violence. Intimate partner violence, often referred to as domestic violence, occurs when one caregiver harms or threatens the other within the family. Even if a child is not directly harmed, witnessing this kind of violence can be deeply traumatic. Home should be a place of safety, but for children in these situations, it becomes a place of fear and unpredictability. Children exposed to domestic violence may live in constant tension, never knowing when the next argument or violent outburst will occur. This constant stress can lead to anxiety, difficulty concentrating, and emotional outbursts. Some children may try to protect the abused parent, taking on responsibilities far beyond their age. Others may internalize the violence, believing it is normal or even their fault. The emotional toll can be long-lasting. Children who witness domestic violence often struggle with trust, relationships, and self-worth later in life. They may also face an increased risk of becoming victims or perpetrators of violence as adults. But witnessing violence does not define a child's future. With consistent support, counseling, and safe environments, many children can break the cycle and grow into adults who build healthier, more secure relationships. Medical trauma. Medical trauma refers to the emotional and psychological distress children experience during or after serious medical events. This can include surgeries, long hospital stays, invasive procedures, or chronic illness. Even when treatment is necessary to save a child's life, the experience itself can feel frightening, painful, and overwhelming. For a child, the hospital environment can be intimidating. Bright lights, unfamiliar machines, and repeated medical interventions may create fear and confusion. The sense of losing control, having procedures done without understanding why, can leave lasting stress. Some children may develop anxiety whenever they visit doctors, while others may avoid medical care altogether in the future. Medical trauma also affects families. Parents watching their child in pain may feel helpless, and children often pick up on this distress, compounding their own fears. In some cases, children relive medical events through nightmares, flashbacks, or heightened anxiety. It's important to remember that medical trauma doesn't just happen from the illness itself, but from how the experience is handled. With compassionate communication, preparation, and emotional support, medical professionals and caregivers can reduce long-term harm. When children feel understood and comforted, they are more likely to cope and recover emotionally. Physical abuse. Physical abuse occurs when a caregiver or adult deliberately causes harm or injury to a child. This may involve hitting, kicking, shaking, burning, or other physical acts intended to punish or control. While the physical wounds may heal, the emotional impact often lingers much longer. Children who endure physical abuse often live in fear within their own homes. Instead of feeling safe and protected, they may constantly anticipate the next act of violence. This state of hypervigilance, always being on guard, can interfere with concentration, learning, and relationships. Many children blame themselves for the abuse, believing they did something wrong to deserve it. Over time, physical abuse can lead to deep emotional scars. Feelings of worthlessness, shame, and distrust are common. Some children may struggle to form healthy attachments, while others may repeat cycles of violence they experienced. The trauma can extend into adulthood, affecting mental health, work, and family life. Recognizing physical abuse as trauma highlights why early intervention is so critical. Support from safe caregivers, therapy, and protective services can help children begin to heal. With the right environment, many can overcome these painful beginnings and learn to trust and thrive again. Every type of childhood trauma leaves its mark, But it's important to remember that no child is defined only by what they've experienced. Healing is always possible with compassion, safe environments, and the right support. By recognizing these traumas, we take the first step toward breaking cycles of pain and creating futures filled with hope and